you. So, thank you everyone for being here today. This is our press conference live from New York City, reporting to you all from the Urban Indigenous Collective. We want to thank you all for having us today in your space and being here on Lenape territory, back from all of our homes in New Mexico. My name is Alejandria Lyons. I'm the coalition coordinator for New Mexico No False Solutions. I'm joined today by all the wonderful, powerful matriarchs, femmes that are holding down the work here with us in New Mexico and the work back home. Today we wanted to just hold this press conference to just get some information out to our audiences back in New Mexico, to relay the intention of why we're here and updates that we're hearing from the ground, and how this is going to propel our work moving forward as a coalition and individual organizations. So I'll let everyone just briefly introduce themselves, and I'll start with my compañera, Enedi.
Hi folks, my name is Enedi Lopez. I'm the Policy Campaign Manager with Youth United for Climate Crisis Action, and excited to be here in New York on the ground to demand for a just transition and to ensure that our communities' voices are being heard and uplifted in this fight for climate justice.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Crystal Curley, or good morning back home. It's 10 o'clock. Again, my name is Crystal Curley. Kinyaani Nashlan Kintla Chigni Bashishi, Nakaide Nedashache Arohanagakni Dashanale. I'm here. I feel like I'm at home because I'm Kinyaani, the Towering House, and we're here amongst all these Towering House homes. And so what we're here for as Indigenous Lifeways is to bring attention and awareness to the hydrogen issues that we're up against in New Mexico back home. And I'm so glad that we're able to be here all together in person. The last time we did our press conference last week was virtually, but now we're all here in person, and we're live in New York at the eastern door of the U.S., so-called U.S. So, thank you.
Guatsi Hopa. Hi everyone. My name is Alicia Gallegos. I'm the Climate Justice Organizer with Pueblo Action Alliance from the Pueblos of Laguna and Acoma. Today is actually our feast day in my home village back home in Powati, or Guishti. So sending prayers over there, and open to receiving too for our people back home. And yeah, so with Pueblo Action Alliance, we're here in New York to assert ourselves as Pueblo Indigenous people. As we have a right to come here and defend our homelands and our communities and protect what is sacred to us, because we will not stand for the commodification of what's sacred, and we will not allow for a continuance of the financialization of nature. So we're here to be the protectors of our people, like I said, and also show our youth that their voices matter when they show up in big cities like this, and it can be heard all across the world, and showing them that their lived experiences and what they have learned from their elders and from their people back home is valuable, and not just to them but for everybody here. So yeah, I'll keep it at that and pass it on over.
Thank you. Yate, She'eya, my name is Anna Rondon. I am Kia'ani Adona Kaidina Bushishchin, and my Jays are Tabaha, Edgewater clan. And I am from Chechota, which is in occupied New Mexico. And I am Dene. I represent today the New Mexico Social Justice and Equity Institute. And what we have been working on is health policy and public health through the indigenous lens, especially through indigenous women lens, because I think New Mexico name needs to be taken and have truth and reparations for our people to be told in an institute that can hold places of truth, reparations, and rematriation. So we believe that indigenous radical public health is a key, one little key, to have the overarching and intersectional policies come together, and with those different movements that we make a larger systemic change with these movements. within this generation and the future generations, because 30 years ago it wasn't like this. There was a lot of more white men in these positions that run this country and the states and the cities. But now we see this new generation, a new inspiration, a new fire for this movement building to protect our earth, to protect our Father Universe, and also to ensure that the truth of our people will continue and to be continued to expose and to ensure that we continue to live for the next generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, each of you, for bringing not only yourselves, but also members of your community. We have just under a 20-person delegation of other youth, community organizers, indigenous matriarchs that are coming from their families. And it takes a lot for us to come from New Mexico and to leave our families to do this work. But it's more important now than ever as we face the dangers of climate chaos that have been imposed on us, on our lands, our water, and our air. And, as you all know, we're here holding the banner of No False Solutions to stop, as you can see behind us, to stop CO2 colonialism. Just for the context of folks back home, New York Climate Week takes place here because this is also where the World Forum is. And so there are grassroots partners here on the ground that are fighting this fight all the time. And, we carry these banners and these stories back home. But I wanted to ask each of you if you could uplift, something that has come to light either for yourself or understanding the battle that we are in as far as climate and how that relates to your struggle back home. Just one thing that you've learned in these last couple days that we've been here during New York Climate Week.
Well, I would like to emphasize the importance of relationships and how that's really going to be critical when we are talking about a just transition, when we are demanding for an end of extraction and fossil fuel use. In the instance where this is a collective fight. It's a collective fight for liberation. It's a collective fight for climate justice to ensure that we don't continue these same systems that have already perpetuated colonial violence time and time again and continue to evolve to harm our communities, to harm the environment, to harm our future. And so just being here and having the opportunity to speak to different partners who come from across the world, and learning of their visions, learning of their work, learning of their fight, it's become clear to me that this is a collective fight, and relationships are going to be at the forefront to ensure that we are able to support each other just across the board.
Yeah, and just to expand on what Enedith was talking about is, despite us being from different areas throughout the U.S. and coming from different communities, I see so many similarities talking with people that don't look like me, that are non-native, but are up against the same type of system that I'm up against, going against capitalism, all of the extraction companies that we're up against, they're going up against the same thing. The water, the air, the land issues. As an indigenous person, what we're here for is so much more at risk. The stakes for us as fighting in this fight for environmental justice is that our indigenous identity is intact when we're going into these conversations with people. Because once we lose rights to our land, access to our sacred sites, we don't have clean water to pray with. Our sacred waters are being dried up. Springs, there's so many different things that we're impacted by that also impacts our culture and our identity as indigenous people. So many different sacred sites are under attack. And we don't want to tell everybody where our sacred sites are. We want to keep some of our information for ourselves. And, for me coming here it does take a lot to be in this fight. I have 3 daughters, and it takes a lot of my time to be in this work. It's not like I chose this. It chose me, and this is something that we have to do. It's a lifelong commitment to have our indigenous identity intact for the next 500 generations. As indigenous people, just being in existence, it's part of our resistance. Just being alive is a symbol of us never being conquered. We were never conquered. We're still here. Bloodlines are still here. And for us to be here in New York means so much, because this is where everything happens all over the world, happens here in New York. We're just down the road is Wall Street. Times Square, everybody knows about this place, New York City. Around the world, you say New York City, everybody knows this place. So this is why we're here. We're taking a global platform to tell our stories and to ensure that we align and are in solidarity with other global movements that are also impacted by colonization, patriarchy, and so many different things. It's become an illness what has happened, and this is the heart of it, being in Wall Street in the financial district. That's the heart of the evil that we've been trying to fight up against. And this is our second year as a delegation coming out here and calling out these extraction companies and going to the heart and the mouth of these monsters, and going to these investment companies. The world's largest investment company is Blackstone, and going into, it's like $1 trillion that they have investments into. And what they're trying to do is infiltrate into our community and misguide and mislead our people into a pathway of death. And it's another form of genocide. So as we're here, we want to ensure that our identity and our traditions and our way of life as indigenous people continue to live on for the next 500 years. And it's so crucial because they keep saying 2030. Well, we're coming to 2025, and the clock is ticking, and it's not on our side to ensure that these actions are fulfilled. We have an obligation to Mother Earth and to our holy people and to our sacred sites to continue to protect them. And we have an obligation to the next 7 generations that they're in our prayers and that we continue to protect them. So there's so much that alignment that has been happening in these last few days, so much solidarity with non-natives and other indigenous people that, there is a light that we can take down these monsters. We are the modern day monster slayers, and it has been prophesized, and this is the time right now to have climate action, real solutions with indigenous frontline values. That's what we want. We want our youth there. We want our elders there to make sure that this is done right. We're tired and we're sick of doing this for so long. So the time is up, and we need to start having action with indigenous people. So yeah.
Thank you, Crystal. That was really powerful. But yeah, like to add on to everything that was said, I think for me, being here this week has really showed me that like decisions that are made here do impact our people and us back home in so-called New Mexico. So that's why, we have to show up here, we have to show our faces, be physically present to, show these people this is who you're impacting. These are the faces and the bodies who you're harming and committing violence against when you're making decisions like, new experimental like energy sources and things like that. And it's not just us, but it's like, our families, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, things like that. And so, it's, like I said, it's important for us to show up here, show our faces, and let them know that we're not gonna allow this to happen without any type of resistance. Like, we're gonna resist, we're gonna tell you that we don't want you on our homelands extracting those resources and, you know, devastating our communities. Our homelands in New Mexico have been an energy sacrifice zone for decades, and we've had to go through all these different periods of starting with, like, you know, oil and gas fracking, and then to uranium, to coal mining, and now, like, you know, hydrogen is being proposed. You know, we're not going to stand for that, that commodification of what's sacred to us. And so just on that same path is, like, we also see how we've been impacted by every point of that production cycle, whether it's, you know, the nuclear production cycle, or, you know, something related to that, something related to, like, the extraction that's taking place. They extract those resources from our homelands, they transport it through our homelands, they dump it on our homelands, test it, all these things. And, you know, it does impact us. We see our people back home getting sick, and we see sicknesses coming that didn't exist before those industries arrived there. And we're also seeing our non-human relatives being impacted from our plants, the animals, the fish in the water, the soil, you know, things that people think aren't considered alive, but those are very alive to us and have spirits. And so we have to show up here as young people and be confident in that what we were taught can carry us all this way and can be heard from across the world. Because as Pueblo people, what we pray for is not just us and for our people back home, but we pray for the whole world, and that, you know, everything living and everything that has a spirit can continue to do so. And so, you know, us showing up here and having that crucial indigenous analysis and worldview is a big contribution, not just in that way, but it's also a political stance that we're not gonna allow for the continuation of capitalism or the continuation of colonialism on our lands and patriarchy, because it all does intersect with each other. And so I think that's what I'll end on now. But yeah, so we do not want to see an expansion of the oil and gas industry, which is what the hydrogen is looking like right now with the produced water. That is a direct expansion of the oil and gas industry, and we won't allow for that to happen. And yeah, I'll pass it to you, Anne.
Yeah, I think meeting a lot of different organizations and the people that are in the organizations has been phenomenal. Meeting new people and seeing old friends. And I've been coming to New York since 1987 at the Global Victims of Radiation Conference. And that went with John Redhouse and Louise Benally and some other folks. And we came back and started the Southwest Indigenous Uranium Forum. And today, 2024, you know, Manhattan Project had a big impact on my Pueblo brothers and sisters at Los Alamos. So the monster's hands and the claws from here to over to our homelands, the atrocities of the nuclear industry, radiating poison and sickness, and the abomination of having a woman giving birth to jellyfish that are not human because of radiation exposure. Even from the Gulf War veterans, 1991, the first time they used depleted uranium. And now there's over 500,000 Iranian people that are sick from radiation illnesses. You don't hear about it. They're using it also in the war in Ukraine. Depleted uranium is not depleted. And, you know, we come to the belly of the beast of the nuclear industry, the nuclear holocaust of America, of the world now. And they're looking at nuclear energy as a clean source of energy. And you have people like Bill Gates that wants to start up 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant for his artificial, really artificial intelligence. And the abomination of some of these children that are being born, there's a photographer that went around the world, Japanese photographer that had pictures of the children with 3 eyes, just a body, 1 eye. How can a world, how can governments create monsters the past 70 years? And in our homelands, babies being born, full body radiation. That's why I've been coming here, and my children and soon my grandchildren will be coming here. The fight's not over. The war is spiritual. And it's the indigenous people's ceremonies. It's our elements that's going to heal. And that's why we are all here as indigenous women from the 4 corners of this United States, where you see and represent the rooftop of the world. If you look at the map, that is our home. For the indigenous peoples that traveled throughout this Western Hemisphere, from the tip of Alaska to the tip of Peru, to Lake Titicaca, for the migration, the spiritual migrations of the Hopi people from Lake Titicaca to where we're in the 4 corners. Our Polynesian relatives, they're in our blood as well. The waters brought us together. Our sacred routes bring us together today, in revitalizing our trade routes. Not only the Western Hemisphere, she's the female, but the eastern part of the earth is the male. Red, white, yellow, and black, because we are closer to the sun. It's not about color, it's about the teachings of the land that you come from. Asians take care of the air. Indigenous people take care of the earth. African people take care of the water. The white people are supposed to take care of the fire. They destroy their way. And we are suffering because of the way they are abusing the fire and the nuclear energy. We're also here to stop geoengineering of the earth and the water. And we're not going to stop. We have the power of our ancestors with us. They're here. We take that energy and we take that staff with us to continue, for the life to continue in a sacred manner again. That's why we are here, and to share our stories and to heal other people as they listen to our stories. That's powerful. Okay, thank you.
No, thank you, Anna, for bringing that. I think what you said touched a lot of us, because I just appreciate the history that you bring up, because this is a fight that a lot of us were born into, because it has been going on for so many generations. And I appreciate all of the pieces that this is a global fight, and that we need to continue to breed that global solidarity in order for our movements to be successful. And that's what I appreciate so much about all of you and the work that you do, because that this is one of the points of unity for the New Mexico No False Solutions Coalition, is that we have to work in global solidarity, because we know, as Alicia mentioned, the fuel chain, it's starting on indigenous lands, on the lands of people who are tied to, their culture is tied to the land, and we have to continue to protect those lifeways, as Crystal and had mentioned as well. One of the other reasons we're here is to highlight and center that analysis, the analysis of indigenous people, the analysis of land-based people, for what is called a just transition. Many of us have been in conversation with people who are on the other side of the fuel chain, that are the workers, and so I'm just curious if each of you will share, some solutions either from your community or your organization that will help center to bring forth this just transition, and in combating maybe some specific false solutions. I know that Alicia had mentioned hydrogen, and also I just want to highlight, there are some really good resources. I know that Pueblo Action Alliance for a long time has stand to propose this water back campaign, and even within some other groups that a lot of us are connected to, the Hoodwinked and the Hot House Collective, that are pushing forward just transition solutions. And so I guess I'm just curious if there's some solutions that you all would like to highlight today that you're working on, and then maybe we could start with Anna and then go this way. If you're ready.
Yes, so as part of our solutionaries, first, it's so important that our young people also get tools and techniques and knowledge. Like Zanaba Jim, she has been working with University of Arizona, the Indigenous Resilience Center, with Dr. Carletta Chief on doing water studies on a Navajo community, and getting them to learn how to do their own water studies for radiation or arsenic and other heavy metals. But that's one of the solutions that we want to let the communities know, that you can create partnerships, take ownership of protecting yourself. Also with air monitoring, water testing is so important in terms of protecting our health, in terms of upstream solutions. We also are bringing in the National Renewable Energy Laboratory to see how we could collaborate on sustainable homes that are built like 3 feet thick and would use, less energy, and would be staying at a climate of 67 degrees year round. That would even reduce the need for us, sucking up all this energy that we really don't need. We were conditioned to buy, since the 1800s. It's not that long ago that they kept telling us, well, you need a refrigerator, you need this, you need that. No, we don't. So I think at right now with this colonial capitalist society crumbling in front of our eyes, with all these masses of homeless people, it's crumbling. But, even though they're talking about clean energy, solar, we all know that it takes lithium and other metals that harms our indigenous land. So we're not all for green washing as well. So we really have to be careful on who we align with and who's really backing our communities, because I really think that in a perspective of some of our people that are on the streets, those are the real resistors. They are not in the system. So even our people at home who are on the streets, they need to be with us. We need to be eating with our people that are on the streets, because those are the warriors that are resisting the system and living off-grid totally. So I like to make that bridge also with our warriors that are on the streets having mental health, behavioral health issues, because as a result of the extractive industries, it's because they're there in that situation. And I think all of us maybe have had experience of being homeless at one time or another, or having nothing. So we all can relate, I believe, everyone in this room and folks out there listening as well. But we do have to be cautious. We like to work on policy change at the state level too. And because all of this is related to our health and the health of creation, it's important that we make these linkages to different parts of the society. Because I mentioned before, this is a new day, a new age. There's a new fire that's going right now. That's beautiful to tend to, and I really look forward to this younger generation and the future generations to take care of their ceremonies, and it's just going to grow and get more stronger, because I see the Pueblo communities, their children are just dancing and so young, and it's evidence. And like someone mentioned earlier, that we are the evidence of resistance because we are still here.
Thank you. Yeah, so like Anna said, just we have to really be critical of what's being proposed as solutions. And that's why, we have the No False Solutions Coalition work going on. And that's basically what we do, making sure that we're catching when the solutions that are being proposed are just market-based solutions, or things that would just continue this colonial capitalist agenda. So we're able to be critical with that. But, I think about our conditions at this moment in time and how deep we are in this, capitalistic society that is so dependent on extraction. And an immediate solution is following the footsteps of indigenous people and uplifting them, uplifting their voices, uplifting their wisdom and knowledge that we have of the lands that we come from. That is an immediate solution, because oftentimes we're left out of those conversations, or our voices are silenced, are not welcomed in certain places. So it's a matter of allowing the native peoples, to whatever respective land base you're at, to take the lead in these initiatives and in these conversations and at the decision-making table. And that inherently comes with an intergenerational perspective, because as you see here today, we have our youth present, we have our elders present, we have people in between youth and elders. I don't always know what to refer to them as. Young elders. Our parents, aunties, uncles. And so, I think that will really model how we can move forward with real solutions that aren't just a perpetuation of the current crisis we're in right now.
Well, I have a lot of solutions. Well, one thing I would like to just mention, because we're at a global platform right now, is I think inserting FPIC, which is free and prior informed consent. If we were all able to, at different levels of government, tribal, city, county, state, and federal level, and at the international level, if we were all able to implement giving information freely, making sure our communities are informed and they have the right education, making sure we have the consent to, and we're all good, making sure that this development is okay. But without that type of proceeding, then we have these issues of no consent going into these communities. We don't have the proper education of what's being done in our homelands, and that's what's being done right now. We don't have no proceedings including the community, And so the other piece would be making sure our communities have the right education, and it's coming from our own people. We're tired of being misguided, being manipulated with the greenwashing agenda that they have of green hydrogen, clean nuclear, clean coal. There's no such thing as, clean fossil fuels. So all of those types of things we're exposing through our coalition. And the thing is that when these new terms start coming out of net zero and, all of these ways of capturing carbon, carbon neutral, these are things that are this language is being manipulated, this English language, because there's so many gray areas in all of this. So we're easily manipulated. When we see clean, when we see green, we think it's good, but we have to really ensure that whatever information that we're consuming in our communities, that it's the truth. And we're all truth tellers right here. We're exposing what these corporations are doing, and we have real solutions. And the other thing I'd like to, as a personal note, what you could do is don't be a sheep. Don't be a follower. Don't fall into these systems. Open your eyes, because, these types of things are affecting your own community. It's affecting your own bloodline. We have climate crime scenes in our backyard that's impacting our health. You can't breathe no more. You can't eat good food. You can't drink good water. We can't even, have a healthy life without paying a bill and a price for it. So these are, solutions that we could go and start implementing in our communities, is educating yourself, having that encouragement or motivation within yourself to do something. Show up to the rallies, show up to public comment when there's something happening. Organize amongst your own family and your own communities. Take that initiative, because, that's what's going to take for us to take down this monster. You can't just be thinking because we're all here, it's going to be okay. We need people. We need more people. Advice that we got from my elder before I came here is that at least if for the 400,000 Diné people, if only 1% were to show up, and 4,000 Diné people in our communities were able to show up and take that life commitment for Mother Earth and Father Sky as land and water protectors, we can shift this whole narrative and really make sure that we can open that door to that new world that we're all wanting for our families. So I think I had some more solutions, but I'm just going to leave it off there. Is free and prior informed consent. Don't be a sheep, and making sure our communities have the right education. We have toolkits that we do for our communities. We try and be holistic in all of the things to ensure our communities have the capacity to make change for themselves. Tell your own story. Get on TikTok, get on YouTube, get on Instagram, make that post, tell your story, because it's going to make that ripple effect for others to be comfortable to tell their story. 15 years ago, young people in these frontline communities didn't feel safe because their life was on the line. 15 years ago, we didn't have TikTok. Social media wasn't all over the place. Now we have that voice. You have this is the weapon that we can use if we all band together and start telling our own stories and our own perspective. No one can tell you no on what truth that you have and the experiences that you have. So, everybody's a storyteller. Stories can change this whole world around. So as a person, as an individual, you could be medicine for somebody. Your story could be medicine. But, these types of people out there, they're also bad medicine, and they're also giving off bad energy. So, harness all that goodness. Go to those sacred sites, make those connection with water, pray with the water, talk with the wind, talk with the land, talk with the fire, be close to those elements, because those are the elements that we're trying to protect. Make those bonds with them, because it's going to carry you on into the next realm, the next dimension that we're going to, and it's going to bring those other ancestors with us as we're talking to these elements. So we, like my mom said, we're in a spiritual warfare, and we're meeting up before we always were coming up over here. I said we're meeting up virtually on Zoom. We're meeting in person, but we're also meeting interdimensionally through our relatives from the past, but also through our young people that haven't been born yet. So this is what it's about. It's very a lot of protection that we have to do going into this fight. So those are some solutions, and just warrior up, and tag us at Indigenous Lifeways while you're at it. Because this is the type of stuff that we need, is more stories. So I can't.
All amazing solutions, and just such a powerful matriarchs that we have here with us today. And I think it needs to be clear for philanthropists, for CEOs, for decision makers, policy makers who are here in New York Climate Week, that there is not a one size fits all to the climate crisis. The solutions to the climate crisis are going to look different for every single community, as they have their respective needs. They have faced different forms of colonial violence. So it's going to take a social and economic transformation in order to ensure that we have a living chance against the climate crisis. And it's important that we center an Indigenous analysis when it comes to climate action and climate planning, because what we are seeing now is these greenwashing technologies that frankly don't do anything besides just switch the name over to, this false perception of it actually reducing carbon emissions, which it doesn't. It continues our dependency on oil and gas and extraction of minerals. It continues this extractive economic sector that depends on ensuring that certain bodies and certain communities are expendable, that depends on the degradation of the environment, of natural resources, of the sacred, and it also depends on just inequity, just in bias and prejudice and discrimination. So when I think of Yucca and I think of the work that Yucca has done in the past, one of the most important solutions is definitely the ability to create our own systems and our own practices outside of what it is that we're taught and what it is that we know. And I think back to the Ruidoso fires and how many people lost their homes due to this huge wildfire, and just the amount of need, and how folks back home all came together to ensure that people were able to have food, they were able to have water, they were able to have clothes, resources. That's the practices we need to begin to instill within ourselves, within our communities, to ensure that we are in mutuality together, right? Like the practice of mutual aid is going to be so critical moving forward, to ensure that our unhoused comrades, our unhoused neighbors are fed, to ensure that folks who are struggling are supported. As I mentioned before, relationships are going to be so important when it comes to the fight against climate crisis, because we need to support each other. And I believe the matriarchs here have modeled in many different ways as to how that can look. And it's important that, there is an epic when it comes to community consultation, that there is an Indigenous forefront, Indigenous analysis to the perspective of viewing the climate crisis and viewing as to what these solutions can look like. So, it's not going to be one size fits all, but at the same time, we just cannot continue with this extractive economy, with these extractive practices that are only hurting us as a collective globally. We need to begin building our own systems and moving away from what it is that these people keep making decisions over us and decisions over our lives. So, I know that the climate solution also includes accountability. It also includes responsibility. There are so many injustices that have happened and they are continuing to happen. And these bad actors cannot continue as they are. They cannot continue to profit without being held accountable for the violence that they have perpetuated for hundreds of years. And that includes ensuring that they are made responsible to, you know, remediation, reclamation of lands, of sacred lands, and giving back that land, ensuring that there is land back, to ensure that there is a reclamation of those lands. So those are the climate solutions I have to offer. I will say, you know, it's not going to be a one size fits all, just like how hydrogen, geoengineering, carbon capture, nuclear are trying to make it seem. We really need to begin to look at different pathways, begin to creating our own alternative realities and our own alternative paths in this fight.
Woo!
So thank you. You know, this is about all the time that we have today. I appreciate everyone for highlighting the ecological consciousness we need to have, debunking false solutions, these conversations that we really do need to have about degrowth and you know, shutting down the capitalist monster that has created colonialism, neoliberalism, and all the things that really damage our community and our culture. And so I think that there's a lot more to continue to do. The fight continues. I think we'll be doing a debrief when we get back home. But I just wanted to say thank you, each and every one of you. I believe everybody's on Instagram, Yucca, Indigenous Lifeways, Pueblo Action Alliance, New Mexico Social Justice, Equity Institute. So follow folks on Instagram. We'll stay in New York, so please watch our media takeover. We're going to continue to hold our governor accountable, who is still here. We're going to continue the fight against the hype on hydrogen, as well as her strategic water supply, so that we can bring this fight back to our community. Please tell other people about this, and we will see you when we get back to New Mexico. Follow us for more.